Eiyuden Chronicle Rising. Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes was successfully kick-started back in 2020 as a successor to the Suikoden series, but that's not the game we'll be talking about today. Eiyuden Chronicle Rising is what became of the last stretch goal for 100 Heroes and originally called A Quiet Place. It's meant to be a prequel and show us a bit about 100 Heroes' world and characters before this one releases in 2023. Originally planned as a town-building game, things seem to have gone a little sideways since although there is a town and it grows as you do missions, this side-scrolling action RPG is probably not what people had in mind when they read about a companion town-building game made by Natsume. Now, let's see how the game turned out to be. The story is as basic as one can be. A dungeon appeared close to a town, and adventurers start arriving to explore it and profit from its treasures. Of course, there are a few twists here and there, and at the end you do get a few hints on what's going on in the world and events that will take place in 100 Heroes. But if you're expecting a huge introduction to the world and a deep story, then you'll be disappointed. The characters are okay, but hardly great. They feel a bit bland and not very developed, but a few of them at least show promise if they are revisited in the future. The world itself feels interesting enough, and I think it does show promise, but it's like we are seeing a very distant and a small corner of the world that is far away from the main events, so it's hard to say. The game looks very pretty if you like the retro look and the cardboard puppet-like characters and animations, which are clearly intentional more than due to a lack of effort, so I at least won't blame them for choosing a style and going for it. The different dungeons and locations look fine enough and have enough variety among them, although they will hardly surprise you or generate any kind of sense of wonder. The music and effects were okay, in that I was never annoyed by any of them, and they proved a good company during the adventure, but I wasn't able to remember them in the slightest even a day after completing the game. Summing up, everything is serviceable but hardly memorable. The game is basically a mission-based side-scroller in which as the game advances you will end up controlling up to 3 characters. Each character is assigned to one button, and as soon as you press one you will seamlessly change to the corresponding character and start attacking. There are combos when you change characters during attacks, and each character has their own strengths. You basically have an agile thief-like character, a strong and slow heavy sword user, and a long-range and physically weak mage to control. The combat and exploration are pretty basic at the beginning since you don't have a lot of attacks or even all the cast of characters, but it does get a bit more complex as you level up and start buying upgrades to your weapons and armors since you get access to new things like blocking or floating through the air as you unlock things. Sadly, although leveling up does give you new tricks, the difficulty of the game is very low, so more often than not, you only need to dodge a bit and spam attacks and character switch combos to win. Probably the worst of the game is the beginning, since you don't have much to play with and the game just refuses to let you play it without interruptions. You will be visiting the first couple of dungeons way more than you'd like, and the game will only let you advance like a couple more screens every time, before finding a way to force you back to town. This was really irritating, but luckily it does get better as it progresses. You will still be seeing the same areas dozens of times though, since the game has a silly amount of side quests that involve bringing items from there. I wouldn't mind the grind if the quests were at least interesting, but they are as dull as they can be. Half of the quests require bringing materials from the dungeons, and the other half is delivering messages from one character to another, and sometimes they are even next to each other. These side quests are also the ones that will help the town start growing up and unlocking new shops or upgrading old ones, so you'll be doing this quite a bit to get stronger as well as to get gold for things. For a game that was supposed to be about town building, there is little for you to do in this regard, since you don't get to choose anything. You only complete side quests and see the town grow up. The game should take from 10 to 15 hours to complete, depending on how many side quests you do, which is not bad since this isn't a full price game. In my case, it took me a bit over 15 because I did all the 160 side quests required to unlock everything, but there were still new quests popping up. As to why I did so, probably because the developer said that the save file from this game would unlock something in the full game, so I just couldn't stop myself from getting a full save, and although it sounds like a lot, it wasn't really that painful, and mindless grinding can sometimes be relaxing. The game almost stretches itself to a 4 by the end of it, since the story and gameplay finally get interesting, but the beginning is so slow that most will just give up there since it's not even short but a few hours long. The uninteresting side quests certainly don't help, and I wish they would have focused more on quality than quantity. That extra time could also have helped to make the dungeons bigger, instead of forcing you to come back to town all the time and revisit the same screens over and over again. An okay game in the end, but one I would only recommend to people interested in 100 heroes and who want whatever the save from this one will unlock. There are just way too many better games of this style. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video and would like to see more reviews like it, please like, comment and subscribe. See you next time.